the fields over here. And my point that I'm trying to make here is that this is move. You make your structs. Usually your structs will be more complex, will be something like public struct, I don't know, like lending pool. And it will have like a ton of fields. It will have, coin A, coin B, some, maybe users. We'll talk about tables today, and then maybe transaction, and we'll have like a lot of them. And you will have to write the functions that tell how these things change. And this is what a move contract is. Here's really simple for an example. And as soon as you have a contract that builds, you can publish it. And most probably, I think I published it last time. Whoa. Again, it's not building. So if you're not sure if you published it or not, you go to the move log file, and it says I published it on DevNet, and then you get two IDs here, like original publish ID and latest publish ID. And this is because you might upgrade your contract, which would have so you're allowed to upgrade the contract, which means you're going to change the code. There are many restrictions there. You cannot change the struct, you cannot change the function. You can change the function code, but not the function definition. So same argument, same return. Those cannot be changed. You can add new functions. You cannot delete existing functions. Everything should be, you should think it in terms of backwards compatible. It should be backwards compatible. And what happens under the hood is that there are two packages. Actually, there will be a new package with a new address, but there will be linked in a way that I will not go there. But if you want to use the newest code, you will need to use the newest ID, and the old ones will always be available. And you can check on the internet. There are many examples with version control where you can do a small trick. I mean, you can always change the function, right? So a function, you're allowed to change the code of the function. And if I want to make this function like worthless, I just say assert false, and this will always fail. And then this function cannot be called anymore after I upgrade it. But the old one will always be available. But you can have a version, but that implies a shared object. You should check it if you need it. We can discuss it at the hackathon as well if you want to do something like that. But that should be like more like a version 2 type of thing where you add, safety. So that's why you see two addresses. Here is the same. I just want to check. Most probably this address is not available anymore. Testnet is being wiped every Switzerland. It's being wiped every week, so yeah, it's Switzerland active now. And then let's get some gas and let's redeploy. To deploy, it's just with current publish. As long as you have to be in the same folder as the move toml, but yeah. Switzerland publish. And it got published. This is my package ID. This should be saved. Usually you write a script to do the publishing for you, and it saves whatever you need. Sometimes you have admin caps and some objects that you would want to save. In this case, I think in the script somewhere, yeah, I say package ID here. It's really, poor code over here. Usually you should put that in an env or in a constant file and that should change every time you publish, if you are publishing like really often. And the better you are with move, the less times you will have to publish. So, and here we called. So in order to call, what you really need is to create a transaction. The private key part, you won't need it, because usually it should be a wallet that does that, and there is a React. So there's a React scaffold with a wallet and the hooks. If you go to that key, yeah, that key docs over here, it tells you how to install, what you need to do in order to make your, this is, the app, the providers, the main app function, and then you go to the hooks, and it will tell you the wallet hooks over here, and it says use current account in order to get the address and the public key, and then there is a use sign transaction in order to sign a transaction, and then there's a use sign and execute, and there's code on how you do this and how you execute a transaction with the wallet. This type of code will result in a pop-up from the wallet that says do you accept or decline. In our case, here in the example, we forgot that. We just created a private key that has some SUI inside, and we used it to sign. That's why I did the private key stuff. You would need to do that on your backend. So if you have a backend that is sponsoring transactions or is doing the transaction on behalf of your user, you would do it something like this. But the transaction itself, the creation of the transaction itself, it's over here. You create a new transaction, and here you have several options. So we call this a programmable transaction, like a PTB, programmable transaction block. And you can add, first you can split coins. You can do this with move code, but this is like a shortcut. So you can create coins by splitting, and especially if you want 3 coins, the easiest way to do that, you just give a TX gas and an amount. Like, remember that it's me, so 1 SUI would be 1 billion. If I want to get a 1 SUI coin, this would be the way, this is just a coin, and I could use it in the argument over here. Like if my transaction was taking a coin, I would do it like this. You can merge coins if you want. There is the TX merge coins. This one does not return anything. You just I need to give a coin over here, and then I need to give more coins. In order to give a coin, you need to know their ID, so you will need to know whatever ID it's over here, unless you get it as a result from a previous instruction. There is what else can you do? You could publish, but this is really difficult. It's much easier through the CLI. There is a make move vec. This is a bit more advanced. If you have a vector of objects and not of numbers or primitives, you will need this, but again, this is pretty simple. You need to give the type. You have to say, and by type, you will have to give a package ID, like what type of objects do you have. I can say, if I want to create this is an object, like this is an object, and if I need a vector of them, I would need the package ID, the name of the module, and the name of the struct. This is a type. So the name of a module is hello world in this case, and this is the message container. Container. And then I would also give type and what am I missing besides type? Objects, vector. Let me see. I forgot. Oh, elements. It's called elements. Sorry. And the elements, and these elements again should be all objects. So TX objects, you need to know their IDs and give it as many as you need. So every time I write this, Uh, a PDB is made of inputs and of commands. Every time I write this, it will know that there's a new input. If we go to the Explorer and go to my address, what's my address? I did a publish transaction just now, so there should be a transaction. It says input, so these are the inputs, and then is the transaction. The inputs are every time you write a TX object or a TX pure, these will be the inputs, and then wherever you write, it's like merge coins or everything else, like a move call, these are the transactions that will happen. And in this case, if I read a transaction, it's a publish transaction, and there is a TX publish as I showed. So a transaction publish means that it did a TX publish. And the other important one is a transfer object. So you can transfer any object. So if I created a coin over here, and this is the best example, let me comment this out. So I could transfer objects. So here's an array. You give as many objects as you want to be transferred. Usually here will be results. So I think, yeah, I'm doing it over here. Like I'm transferring the object that was created by the new container. And I can also transfer over here the coin. Of course, this is kind of stupid to do two transfers. That's why you get an array over here. I can transfer the objects and the coin that I created over here by splitting. And this will result in me having like two coins right now. If I check, I will see that I have like one coin that has this much balance. This will split the coin with one miss, but because I'm using the same keeper and I'm signing always with the same address, it will result in sending to myself a coin of SUI, which means that I will take one SUI from here and I will create another new coin. And I will call the function in a bit and you will see it. And this is the most important. And the beauty of PTBs is that you can batch transactions. So I can call whatever else I want over here. I can call maybe, I don't know, something that is totally irrelevant. Like if I knew the Sweeland package ID and some, lending. I'm not even sure how they named it, but like deposit or something. I can call anything that I want. This is one method to batch transactions, but there is the other thing that this enables you to do is that you can combine them. So this move call has returns an object. I put it over here. I'm not sure why I read it sled. So I put it over here. Then I could use it in a next move call, especially. Oh, let me see. So yeah, I could change the message directly, like in the same transaction. I could create it and then immediately change the message. Right now, let's see it once before I change the message. So let's create a new object that says my new message. I just need to call this. No, I need to actually tell him. And if this is success over here, it means it happened. We can go to take the digest, and instead of reading all of this, we can go to the Explorer, which will show the exact same data, but in a more readable. So it says 3 inputs. So I have a pure of U64, and it's the number 1 billion. This happened over here. I didn't write it. It does it implicitly, but I can also write it because coins are of type Q64, amounts of coins and the balances. So I can tell it I want a pure argument, and then the other input is a string. This happens over here. And the last argument, there's another one. It's again a primitive. There's no objects right yet. So yeah, it's the address. And then it says three transaction. The first one is a split coins. I gave the gas coin and the first input in order to get a new coin, and then I do a move call where I give as argument, the input one, which is the string, and then I transfer objects. Here it says result one. Result one means this thing, the result from the split. Oh no, sorry, the result from the second, the second command in the transaction, and result zero would be whatever the first command outputs, and then input two being the address. And this is a PTB. You're allowed to have up to 1024 commands, so you can either batch or combine a lot. This is the easiest way, for example, to do an aggregator where you want to swap, so at least the swapping part, as long as you know the root, you can create a new transaction and you say you go to the first DEX, you do a swap, you take the result, you go to the next DEX, you do a swap, you go to the next DEX until you get the coin that you want from the starting coin that you had. So there's absolutely no need to write any contract for that, as opposed to other chains. Now I can come over here and add another move call, and this time I will change immediately the message on the name is change message, and over here I need arguments, and the arguments, the first one is an object, is a container. I got it over here. The second one is the message. The TX context doesn't. So I need another string over here. My second message. So now this will happen all in one transaction. Also note that this transaction with many commands, it's atomic. So if any of the commands fail, everything will fail. So if I do it now, when I get the digest, now I have 4 inputs because the same inputs plus the additional string for the second message. And then 4 transactions, the split coin again, the move call, that creates the container, and then the move call that takes whatever this outputs. So here is the result 1, and then it changes the message. And if we go here and says somewhere it should say created, okay, this object was created, this should be the address, and it says my second message. For a very infinitesimal amount of time, it said my first message, but I went ahead and in the same transaction actually changed. If you want to change it again, then you would need another transaction. So over here, let's make a transaction that just changes messages, change message. it will be more or less the same. I need to create a new transaction. And in this case, I need to know the ID of the object, because if we go ahead and do what I want to actually do, it's a move call towards the package ID. It's actually the exact same thing over here. But for the arguments, if I remember correctly, the first argument is a container. Over here, we got it from the first call, but over here, we're supposed to already know it, like maybe the object ID, the container ID. It's something that we will be given and something that it's known. And I will show you how we can get that. So here comes txt object. So I'm telling him you will get this object with this ID, and then you will put the string like something. And then of course I have to execute it. If you're on the front end, you will not need to do all of this. You will just use that hook. And then I can just check if the transaction was so if you have the show effects, and you need the show effects in order to know if the transaction failed or not, it's in effects, status, and status again. So now I don't want to run this one. I want to run the change message. But here I need the object. I can use either this object or the other one that I created. So if I go to my address, I should have an upgrade cap. Yeah, the upgrade cap is whenever you publish something, you get that. And then I have two objects. I can use either or both. Let's take this one. So I have to give the address over here, which gets inputted over here. So now, if I go ahead and run it, the transaction was a success, but I don't, I should also print the digest. Now I can just find it. If I go, the Explorer also can check my latest transaction. I have to refresh now. So it's this one. I have only two inputs. This time the first input is an object with this ID, and the other is a string, one transaction. The transaction says change message. And if we go ahead and check this object, now we should say beautiful message because we call the change message. Now, in order to get this ID and in general reads, I will go really briefly over them. So if you want to be able to read the chain, you need a client. I have created a client at the beginning. In more production-like code, again, you will have a utils or something lib or whatever, and you create this client, you export it, and then you import it wherever you need it. You should only create one client every time. Yeah, please. So over here, usually you should give, over here, there is a helper function that says get follow the URL, and this will give you an RPC. You need an RPC provider because it's the only one that can actually all these, everything that the client does is something that only the RPC providers understand. You can call it, we call them full nodes, you can call it an RPC node, you can call it just a node, you can call it whatever. It's just something that's between you and the nodes that are doing the consensus, the validators, what we call them usually on SUI. And these are the things that you talk to as a Web2 user. Over here, there are some provided by Mysten for DevNet, mainnet, and testnet, but they are severely rate limited. So if you're doing a lot of transactions in a very short amount of time, or you have a backend that every time someone of your users is pressing something, you're doing a read, and especially reads. Like writes are not that often compared to reads, but whenever you have a front end and you want, someone connects their wallet, you want to show their NFTs, you want to show whatever they have, this means at least one read and maybe more. And if many users, go on at the same time, then most probably you'll get rate limited. And at this point in time, you will need to, especially if you're in production, you will need to consider going with an RPC provider or deploying a full node yourself. And you would give their URL over here, and you will not use this get full node URL. You will just give an actual URL, like HTTPS. What? Yeah, so when you see that you're starting hitting limits, so for development, most probably you will never hit those limits, or very difficult unless you're doing like some stress testing. But otherwise, you won't get any limits. So you can use the DevNet and the testnet, but the mainnet, it's unreliable, and I wouldn't suggest going to mainnet with a product and using the providers given by default. And the read, Hmm? Please. There's there's no check. Instead of getting this nice response that I'm getting over here, you will see an error, and it will be with status 429. So the only way that you could check it, the ideal way, the programmer way, especially if you're doing limits, you would do a try over here. Sorry. And then you would do a cut error, and you say if error status equals 429, which is the too many requests, you say console log, please use an RPC provider, or something like this. There's no way that you're, so right now the limits, I think it's 100 calls per 30 second in a moving time frame. You can count how many you're doing in the seconds if you want, but these limits also change from time to time. Sometimes, especially if there's a hackathon or something going on, maybe they are increased for a certain period, and then maybe it goes too low if someone is, willing to DDoS. They woke up like having seen a beautiful dream, and they want to annoy the infra guys. Then maybe we will limit it to 10 requests per second until they stop bothering us. There is no such command. I mean, this is a public good, like given by Mysten Labs. There are some other free RPC providers. As far as I know, Mysten Labs has not. They don't have a status page whether they are up or whether what's the current limit. The limit usually it's good enough. So for dev, you should never ever hit the limit. Like the way I'm doing now, like I'm doing one read and I'm reading slowly the transaction. I see that everything went well, and then I go ahead and I do another transaction, see that everything went well. This is going like really slow. You will never hit the limit during dev work. You will hit the limit when you actually start doing like testing and stuff like that, and you're trying to stimulate a real world scenario.
Yeah, hi guys. I have one question about mobile application. Yes, not really mobile application, but let's imagine them. We have some messenger, yeah, and we want to somehow interact with our wallet. Or, for example, in mobile browser, we don't have extension with wallets. So
Wait.
how?
So on a mobile application, the way it happens is that you don't have an extension, but you have a wallet downloaded, and you open the application. You open the web. So through the wallet, you open the web application, and you will be able. You don't need. So for a web app, if you're doing on the web and you're writing code, you don't need to do anything on your side. You will use the same over here, the same hooks, the same everything, and the user just needs to open your app through their wallet from the mobile. They will just need
Uh,
to write the HTTPS, whatever my chain IO, my project IO, whatever it is.
mhm. But for example, I have some, I don't know, bot, yet some Telegram bot or something like that, and I want to do some transaction automatically, not just putting like, please send such number of coins to this address, but for example, as I know, there is possibility to serialize transaction. So serialize it and send it via URL, and it will be open, for example, in Snap. So is this mobile wallet? Yeah, but
Yeah,
how can? Uh-huh.
let me show you. Let me show you how you do this. So I will show you how you can create a transaction that can be signed and executed at a later point in time, like uh, transaction. This we call this building. So you just build a transaction, but you don't actually execute it. And oh, actually, let me paste the code. Sorry, over here, it's the exact same. So I'm building here the transaction where you create a new container and say new container build on. Um, so if you and yeah, let me remove this split coins example as well. And I'm not transferring it anymore. So you're not doing this thing. You're not executing it. After you're done with this, you just need to do like bytes. You need the bytes. This is what you're signing, and this is what it's happening actually. And you do tx.build, and you need to give a client. Uh, there is a way to do it offline, so you don't need a client, but this is much more advanced. If you need that, we can talk about it. Uh, in this case it's client. I won't write it like this. I will write it the easy way. So you need a client because it needs to go and fetch objects and a lot of stuff. A transaction actually has a lot of other things. So you set here a gas budget. This is something that you should set every time, but if you're too lazy to do that, and I am too lazy, usually it does it for you under the hood. You should set the sender, who is the one that's sending the transaction. If you're too lazy to do that, it will check. In this case, when you're building, usually you should do that. So in my case, it's just keep pair to SUI address. So there are some other metadata that the transaction needs. It also needs the gas price. This is the price for gas. This is being voted by the validators every day. If you go to any explorer, there is a call that it gives it to you. So here is 1000. It shouldn't be lower than that. It can always be higher than that. Um, but it won't have any effect yet. But you can pay more gas than you're supposed to if you want. And maybe in the future, when there is transaction ordering according to the gas you're paying, this is a way that you would pay more gas. You would put a higher number here. So anyway, the point is that you need a lot of metadata if you want to build it offline without giving a client over here. So if you forget the client and you just do a TX build, let me make sure I'm not calling anything else. So if I'm trying to call just this, I should be getting an error. And oh, this is an async operation. Oh. So it says an error, but no SUI client path. So this is the error that you would get. And it's telling me that you didn't give me a client, but you didn't also give me all the metadata over here, all the things that I really need in order to build a transaction. Uh, so yeah, you would need a client, and then you just return this, and this is what you need to sign. So the next step would be like key pair sign. It's actually sign transaction. If you have a wallet and you're using the wallet, it's a web app again. There will be, sorry, I don't have a wallet, but the hook would be over here, just sign transaction. You would use this hook over the bytes. In my case, I have a key pair over here, and it's just sign transaction, and I will give the bytes. And this would return this for some reason. I'm not sure why it's like this, but this returns both. Uh, and is it? I don't think it's. Wait, uh, it's a promise, so yeah, you need to await it as well. So you get the bytes again. It's the same bytes. It doesn't change. I'm not sure why this happens. Maybe this. Yeah, I have no idea why they did like this. And you get a signature as well. And then the last step would be at some point in time. So these things can happen in another function from here on. This can happen in another place. And then you need again a client, or maybe your wallet has a client as well, and you just do an execute transaction in this case, and then you give the transaction. In this case, you need bytes, and you also need to give a signature, which is the signature. Uh, and this executes the transaction, and you get the same response. This is again a promise. You need to await if you want the response, and you would get the same response. So this sign and execute that I'm doing usually over here does all these three steps. It builds it, it signs it, and then it executes. And when you want to separate that, you stop over here, you return, and then you create another function that says, just execute tx. This is a uint 8 array, I think. Yeah.
Alex, but I suppose we can send this serialized transaction via deep link. It will open slash, for example, yeah, and there we can just sign it, and that's it.
You can sign it, and you also need to execute it, right? You don't need to just sign it. You need to do both of these things.
Okay, got it. Thanks. What about with token splitting? So if, for example, I send this serialized transaction to client via send it via mail or send it via some messenger. Yeah, client open and he should just sign it. Yeah, so confirm it.
Yeah.
Uh, but how can I know? So this transaction should contain splitting, token splitting. Yeah.
So if you have the bytes from a transaction, you can actually recreate the transaction. You can say transaction from kind, I think. Yeah, the one that takes uint data array. So you just give the bytes over here. So you have the tx again, and you can check the commands, or let me remember over here. It's the I need to remember how they named it. No. Yeah, I have to check this. Sorry. Oh, is it get data? Yeah,
Ale-
it's this one. So you would have to recreate the transaction and you do a get data.
but I suppose it should be done by a wallet automatically, so by slash application. Yes, so
If
we just send a deep URL,
Yeah, you can do that,
and
but if you
if
want
it
to check
opens
what the
slash,
transaction does, if you want to check what commands, so you can have like 1024 commands. If you want to check them one by one, if you want to make sure that if you want to make sure that you got the correct transaction, you should check the digest. But otherwise, you should, if you want to check that something, it's the addresses are correct, the inputs are correct, the commands are correct. You need to get the data. If you don't want to check that, you just run this code from whoever is getting the deep URL or whatever. Then you need to run this code. You need to run the sign and the execute. The sign
but
you will be with the wallet.
but with this serialized transaction, I cannot send it to. So, for example, I don't know the client of this transaction. Yeah, the sender of this transaction. I don't know how many token he has or she has. Yeah, so I don't know how to split it. So how
So
to.
wait, when you're building the transaction, you should at least know the sender. And I think in this case, the sender should be set. So you should set the sender over here. And since you know the sender, you can always read, like you can do a const coins of sender. And this was the next step. So you can always read client get coin, get all coins maybe, or get coin. There are a lot, or get balance, get all balances, whatever you need. And over here you need to give the owner, which is the address, so you need to know the address somehow of the sender. And then no, that's enough. The get all balances will give you all the coins, for example. So you read the coins, and when you're building the transaction, you see, does he have enough? So these will be the first steps. Like you check their coins. Are there enough? Because if my transaction says split 10 SUI, but there are no 10 SUI inside here, you should throw an error. So you do an if coins of sender, data or whatever. Let's see what this returns, because I don't remember. Oh, let's go. Let's go to the read actually. So yeah, the idea is that first you read the chain, you make sure that everything is as should be, and
Okay, so
then you serialize it. When you're sure that everything is correct, then you serialize it, and then you send it to execute. And you're pretty sure that if the user didn't do a transaction during that time, everything will work. If they did a transaction during that time, this will fail.
I got it. So like set.
So it says, you see, it says coin type. So this is what I'm getting, coins of sender. So yeah, here I will need to do a filter. For example, this is an array, and I will need to filter for, item. And if I want to check the SUI, I would say like item dot coin type equals this thing. Yeah, I don't need this, and I don't need this.
Alex, so there is not possible to build a transaction like just abstract what one without sender, yeah? And when sender will get this transaction in their wallet, yeah, for example, in Slash, so transaction will
Yeah,
automatically apply it there. So
that
we
is also
built it.
possible. You can just return. You don't need to serialize necessarily. So, where would you do it? So, you don't have to either even build it. So, if you don't want to build it over here, you can just stop here and you just return the transaction, the TX over here. Or if you need to send it, if you need to send it with deep link and stuff like that, it's better to serialize. You return it serialized without sender, without anything, and then you come over here, and then you would have to do this that I did over here. You would have to create it from bytes. So you recreate the transaction, you add your sender. Now that you know it, whoever that might be, maybe you have a sender over here.
So the wallet won't do this automatically. Wallet won't add sender automatically when it
It
will.
will do it, but it will not do it for a serialized transaction. So it won't do it for bytes, for serialized bytes, but it will do it for a transaction. So if you go ahead here and instead of doing, the building and all of these things that need to be done, you just recreate the transaction and then you do, yeah, assign and so this will happen if you call either from the wallet, either from a backend, the sign and execute. If you call the sign and execute, all of these things will be added for you by default under the hood. I mean,
Okay, thanks.
so yeah, going back to reading the chain. So in order to read the chain, there are very many. You should check them. Like the most common ones is get object. If you want to read a single object, you just need to pass their ID. Uh, then there is a client, get owned object if you want to see what an address has, and here is owner, and then you need to give the address, whatever that address is. There is a client, we saw the get balances, but there are, get all coins, get just one balance, but here you will need to give the owner and the coin type. And I'm saying, okay, I only want to get the SUI coins. Uh, and for USDC, you need a type for USDC, so on, so on. And let's see what else. There are, you can read the checkpoints, which the checkpoints are the blocks. You can get for every, where it is, transaction. You can read a transaction that happened in the past. Get transaction block. You would just need a digest. This is a unique identifier over here. So check them all, check the responses by yourself. So this response is the same with this one. Whenever you're executing, you will get the exact same thing. And it also has the exact same options over here. If you want to show the effects, you can show the effects. If you want to show the events, you can show the event. Uh, So everything that starts with get would do a read, and there are quite a lot of them. The most used are, get object for a single object, get owned objects to get the objects from an address, and then there is the get balance. If you just want to check, if you do a get owned objects, you will get the coins and everything else. But if you just want to get the coins, you can do just the get all coins or just get the coins. And here, I think you can give owner, but also types, okay, coin types or something like that. So check them out. They are in the docs. They are pretty straightforward. This is so, and the flow is that, a user comes to your website, he connects the wallet immediately, these type of transactions happen. You get all the get owned objects. Usually this is the only transaction that you will only read that you will need. You see what type of objects. And also keep in mind that all of these things have pagination. So there's always a cursor, and this the response itself uh, for all of these reads, especially if you're expecting a lot, it's the data, but it's also the next cursor, like where it stopped, and has next page. So you have all of these, so you can put all of this in a while loop and continue until this is false. And yeah, you give a cursor over here, which is for if it's get owned objects, the cursor will be an ID. If it's transaction, uh, actually it will be a digest, but this is for get transaction blocks. And whatever makes sense depending on the get that you're doing, you can see the next cursor. You should always use the next cursor. You would do like let cursor equals string or undefined, and it will be undefined initially, and then you will do like and you let continue or has next equals true, and we'll do while has next, and you will have also a result over here depending on what you're getting. It can be anything, and now it should be let, I think, and you'll do like result equals result whatever you had before plus whatever you got now, and then the cursor is the next cursor. Yeah, sorry. And then the has next equals the has next page, and you would do that, and this is how you get everything, especially from if your clients, and yeah, this is the most correct way, especially if you feel that you're going to hit limits. If you own the full node, you can set the limits. If you don't own the full node, you're using someone else RPC. Usually the limit it's 50 or 100 items for any type of get. And okay, this kind, I guess I'm at time. I wanted to talk about, Andre, do we have another workshop next week? Because over here, yeah, I wanted to add, to show like tables and dynamic fields in the move side. And I think with that, and maybe if we have time, the generics, and with that, it should be like everything there is about move. Until next week, try to read the chain, do mainnet over here, do a client on mainnet, especially if you have played with SUI, if you have went and did what it's called, did any transactions on chain, you can always, client get uh, how do you get the transaction blocks? Get total transaction blocks? No. Uh, no, this will not give a filter. So let me. Sorry, I forgot how you can get for an address. You can filter the transaction blocks by an address, or maybe you should get the checkpoints. No, there's no way. I guess you should read the checkpoint. I think there's another way. Anyway, just get your objects, get owned objects, check the fields. There are options over here, so not everything is shown by default. So if you want to show the content of the object, you can see it. If you don't want to show the content, you will get the ID. So for every ID that you're getting, then you can go ahead and do a client get object and see the responses and so on and so on. But everything that happens on any explorer that you're using, the fact that I'm getting all the transaction blocks of a sender over here. So if I go to my address, no, if I go to an address, the fact that I'm getting my latest transactions block means that there is a way to do that. If you cannot find it, just shoot me a message on Telegram. I'm not, yeah, I just stuck. I'm stuck over here and I forgot. But everything that you're seeing, so this is a get owned objects. This is just a get coins, and okay, we didn't talk about kiosk. And this is there is a call to get just a transaction where the sender is the same address, but I'm just only remembering it. So yeah,
Yes, thank you.
thank you.